Hey friends, welcome to the second season of So, What Makes You Come Alive podcast, inspiring conversations with everyday humans like you about what lights them up. We're your hosts, Gabe the Girl
and Michaela McGee. And this season, we're continuing to explore what it would look like to take ownership of and change the narratives of our lives to live a life fully alive.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of So, What Makes You Come Alive podcast. I'm Gabe the Girl.
And I'm Michaela.
And today we have a new guest with us. We're excited to welcome Margaret. She is a friend of Michaela, so I'm going to let her give us a little intro.
Yes. Also, for those of you who are not watching YouTube right now, Margaret is wearing a beautiful flower crown. So when you're done listening to this episode, you can just go rewatch it on YouTube so you can get the full effect. It's amazing. So it's awesome. It's kind of making me wish that I had a flower crown of my own, but here we are. So Margaret and I, she's another one of my internet friends. I seem to have a lot of these, but she and I actually met through Facebook. We have yet to meet in person, but I feel like that's going to happen sooner or later. And we connected over our passion and love for languages, among other things. So she and I have actually been practicing Italian together, which is so much fun. I love getting to practice languages with other people. And she is a beautiful, creative soul. She's an author. She loves all kinds of creative. The flower crown in and of itself is pretty creative, right? Like as if we needed any more proof. But anyway, I'm going to hand it over to Margaret to share a little bit more about who she is, what she does, and then we'll dive into the exciting piece of this podcast conversation. So excited to have you here, Margaret.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love to write fiction, historical fantasy being my favorites, anything pre-1900, especially if it's about transformation. I'm totally fascinated by how people transform in their lives when external circumstances are required of them and when they require it of themselves. I love to bake goodies for friends and family, breads, cakes, cookies, stuff like that. I've never made a pie, oddly, like in my life, never made a pie.
Wow.
I know. I like to draw and I play music as well. So I usually define myself as a multi-curious creative. Depending on the day, it's like, this is how I'm going to be creative today. And sometimes that's making a flower crown.
Yeah. That's so neat. I'm going to adopt that.
Yes.
Do it, please.
That phrase into my life. Multi-curious creative.
Yeah.
The more of us, the better.
Am I embracing today?
Totally. Well, I just think it's so much fun too. And you know what? This is, okay, I'm going to go off on a slight tangent, but only for like 10 seconds. I never saw myself as a creative person until I realized that creativity is not just art. It's not just whatever, but like it can be making a flower crown or baking or whatever, being in the kitchen. Like I love all these different passions of yours, Margaret, that you just listed off that like,
thank you.
To me now, I see all of those as creative things and we all have so much creativity within us that we get to express it in a way that feels good to us, in a way that is truly us.
We totally do. And you have a podcast that's creative.
Oh yeah. True. Oh yeah. Thank you. I'll pat myself on the back for that one.
I think you should.
Although, let's be real, this was Gabe's idea. And I was like, hey,
I want to do it. Couldn't have come to be what it is today without Michaela. So
we're in this together. Amazing.
All in this
beautiful.
Together.
Thank you.
I think everybody needs to get on YouTube and watch this episode because it's going to be an eventful one.
Yes, it is. Dancing, singing, flower crowns, the works. All right, Margaret, what is it that really makes you come alive? What lights you up?
Story, 100% story, because we all are connected by that. It's so human. From when people were painting in caves to when they were creating myths to explain constellations or using constellations to explain myths, to now when we have things like Bookstagram and, we can carry books in our phones with us, like a whole library.
Yeah.
We are here for story and story's here for us. And it's how we connect with each other. It can boost empathy in the world. It can broaden people's horizons. It can entertain us. It can soothe us. It can anger us sometimes. it can change us as people and prompt us to change. And yeah, so anything to do with story, just like boom, light
Oh,
on all the wattage.
yes. I
When did
love
you
that.
learn when did you learn that about yourself? Like when did you learn that story was something that like made you come alive?
My last semester of college.
Okay, so tell us more about that.
I was majoring in art history because I had changed schools and changed majors a few times. And my parents, I was paying for school at this point. My parents were like, please just finish. Please choose something. We don't care what. My father was like, you could major in digging holes if you want to. I don't care, but please get a degree. I'm like, I don't think they offer that.
Well, Dad, here we are.
And I
Yeah.
fell in love with art history. I fell in love with the stories behind the art.
Oh.
And so I guess I probably discovered it about myself sooner, but not in as cogent a way. And so I majored in art history because I was like, this is something I like, so I'll finish. And this is a little PSA. Try not to make 17 and 18-year-olds figure out what they want to do for the rest of their life. Like that's not the time to decide that. But anyway, I remember sitting with one of my favorite professors like halfway through my last semester, and he's like, so what's your plan after college? I'm like, I have no clue. Like, I would love to be a writer. And he's like, you didn't major in writing, right? I'm like, yes, I do. So then I got just a day job. I was working for my father at the time. And I started learning how to tell stories. So yeah,
Awesome.
That's really cool. I mean, I know that you are speaking right to Gabe's soul right now. Big fan of the story over there too.
Who says you have to major in writing to be a writer, to love story, or to, inspire others?
Yeah, you don't even have to have gone to college. You don't ever have to have studied writing. It's in us.
Yeah.
And that's the most beautiful thing.
Yes.
It is. You know what? Yes, it really, like, what really, really spoke to me was you talking about the pictures in the caves, that like storytelling has been around since the dawn of time. Like however we have been able to communicate, it has been there. You pass down like, the heck is the word that I'm thinking of? Like not folklore, but like big stories were told from generation to generation, like around a fire until, people learned to write or draw pictures or whatever it was. And I love that. I love that there are stories that have been here since the dawn of time in those caves.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
It is.
The caves of, I'm going to mispronounce this because I never took French. The caves of Lascaux are particularly interesting to check out if you haven't seen them before.
Where are they?
There are pictures all over the internet. They're in France, and they're predominantly agreed to be the oldest surviving cave drawings that we have found to date. Not to say that there weren't ones before this, but in fact, there likely were. But these are surviving, so you could still see pictures of them, which is pretty cool.
It really is.
That's awesome.
Also, thank you, Internet, for making those available to people who don't necessarily live right next door to France.
Honestly.
Yes, exactly.
There are so many more stories at our fingertips because of the World Wide Web.
Yeah,
yes.
The World Wide Web.
Yes.
Just call it what it is.
Yeah.
I wonder, just out of curiosity, side note, just rabbit trail. I wonder how many of the younger generation, like my niece or nephews, like if I asked, what does www dot mean? They'd be like, what? Maybe. I don't know.
They probably don't even use it. I used to teach English and I loved my students, but I remember telling them, like, when I was a kid, we didn't have the internet to do research like in high school. Like it didn't come around till like the end of high school for me. And they're like, what did you do? I'm like, we used a card catalog. And they're like, what's that?
We went to the library.
Yeah. Like we physically had to. And they're like, well, what if they didn't have the book? I'm like, then you didn't learn it. Like,
it's so true.
You had to request it, or like you maybe had an encyclopedia at home. They're like, what's that? I'm like, it's like Wikipedia, but in book form.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we had a gigantic encyclopedia at home.
Yeah, we'll have to go check out those pictures though, since they're available to us.
Yes.
Definitely.
I have a quick question, Margaret. How are you embracing your passion for story in like your day to day? Like, what does that look
I
like?
I write every day, whether I'm working on novels, poetry. There's story in song. There's story when you bake something, right?
Mm.
There's story when you post on, social media. It's all
Mm.
story. So I think it can be a way of embodiment in life, and seeing it everywhere. It's like when you learn to see the divine in things, whatever your belief system may or may not be, it just all of a sudden is everywhere.
Yeah.
So, from like a tree to a blade of grass to a cricket, I guess I need to go walk in the woods or something.
The woods are calling,
The woods are
Mhm.
calling.
and she must
But
go.
yes, but story is everywhere, and it's in everything. It's in a commercial, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
even you can open up. I almost said open the newspaper. Like, who's doing that these days? But
Well,
open up a newspaper app,
Yeah.
and you can
True.
see it in the headlines.
sure.
So
Yeah.
it literally is everywhere. So I write. For me, I write or read every day, but I also try to see the story in other activities as well.
Yeah.
It's
So
so
what,
beautifully put.
Thank you.
yeah. What inspires or encourages you to live a life where you're embracing story and pursuing writing each day? And
I think my soul would die if I didn't. It's sort of like, I feel like it'd be like being pushed underwater and held there, just drowning without
oof,
it. Like,
Mm.
story is that breath of air for me that's coming up above the surface and taking a deep breath so that I can live. Um, and I think for all people, we all have this ability to tap into creativity this way, and it can become that breath of air that just brings us life. And so for me, it's I can't imagine my life without it. And oh, sorry, I just knocked into my computer and made the picture kind of go wonky. And on days when I don't have as much time to invest in writing or reading, I feel a little like, I don't know, like I didn't shower enough that day or something.
Mm.
Like something's off.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's necessary for life.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we all probably have those things, right? That is like, this feels like our lifeblood. Like, if I do not do this thing, or if I do not, I don't know, whatever it might be, hold this mindset, practice this, whatever, every single day, then what? Yeah, maybe, I mean, maybe it's a little extreme to say that my soul is dying, but like, I think that we probably do all have that passion within us of something
Yeah,
like
it's like a
that.
totally.
part of you suffers without
Yeah.
Yes.
like
Yeah.
the implementation of that thing that makes you feel alive. I know when I've been away from some of those things that I'm passionate about or make me feel make me feel alive, make me come alive, when I'm away from those things, I come back to them and I'm like, oh, I feel
Yeah.
refreshed. There's something
Yes.
I feel filled up.
Mhm.
I feel inspired. I like, oh gosh, why am I
Mhm.
not doing this more? You know?
Right.
Yeah. I
Right.
don't think we're meant to be automatons. We're meant to
Mm-mm.
have these vibrant experiences in life. And to me, that is the point of life. And,
Yeah.
for better or worse, a lot of people call life that it's about lessons, and it can be, but I think it's mostly about experiencing. And when we're
Mm.
denied the opportunity to experience our passions, whatever they may be, across a broad spectrum, it really can feel like we're suffocating, or, you know, that some part
Yeah.
of us is slowly dying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think about even the phrase of like what lights you up. Like, if we are not tending to that fire, then it does go out. We essentially are, yeah, we are Jamal. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it is intense when you really think about what it is that you are denying, not just yourself, but the world. Like,
Yeah.
the world needs each one of us to be fully lit up, to be living in that zone or that state of being that is so excited, so passionate, so whatever. And like, not necessarily that we need to be like crazy excited all the time, but when you are in that flow, like, you can really feel the love that's pouring out of you, that, like, I don't know, when life just, what, it flows, right?
Keep
I
it
think.
Yeah.
steady.
Hmm. Yeah.
100%. 100%. And that, I think, is the key to elevating our species,
Mm.
to care more for each other. So maybe it won't be through writing for everybody, because writing
Right.
a book is really hard. It's not for everyone. And not to say that people can't do hard things, but if it's not your passion, it's not the right path
Yeah.
for you, because you'll just hate it. Similarly, I look at people who paint, and I don't enjoy painting. It's too messy for me physically. I'm like, I can appreciate a painting. I don't enjoy the process. So, everybody's got their own things, and that's so important too. But the idea of, lighting that cauldron in ourselves, or, that fire in ourselves, that's the point of living.
Yeah. Ooh, that got deep. I love it. It's so good. And so, I feel like we have kind of touched on this already, but what challenges have you faced when you are pursuing a life that really truly lights you up? It's inevitable, right? We have those days where we don't do the things, but what are the challenges that have maybe put you in those situations?
The primary one for a long time was imposter syndrome, until I learned how to integrate and get rid of that. That was huge. I would write something, and I think before I published my first book, I had written 5 other complete novels that never saw the light of day, because I was like, this is not good. And, I'd work on them. I'm like, it's never going to be good. And it took a long time, about 17 years, to learn how to work through that and get to the other side of it and be like, okay, this is something I'm proud to put out in the world and share with people. Is it perfect? No, it's never going to be perfect. We're human. And I believe we should embrace imperfection. But does it have a place in the world where it can help people connect to something deeper in themselves? Yes. And in that, it's ready to go out. So imposter syndrome is a huge one. Sometimes just the daily grind can make it so that by the end of the day, if you are having to save your passionate pursuits for the end of the day, sometimes you get there and you're just like, I'm tired. I just want to sit and turn on Netflix, and that's fine too. Those days happen. There can sometimes feel like there are financial constraints, like we talked about, how you don't have to go to college for writing. There's a lot of people who believe that you need to have some sort of expensive credential in order to do the things you want to do. So it took me a little while to get on the other side of that. In the writing world, particularly, there are a lot of hoops to jump through unless you decide to leave the circus. So go your own way.
Well put.
I like that imagery.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
I'm not surprised by the imagery.
No, that's true.
Being a storyteller.
writer. Yes. Yeah. I think that this is totally something that so many people can relate to, especially the idea of the day-to-day can really get in the way of us living a life that lights us up. And I heard something a couple of years ago that has really, really stuck with me. That is, I have the exact amount of time for that which is a priority to me. And once I realized oh, okay, what am I really prioritizing then? Am I really going to prioritize the boring day-to-day over something that lights me up? How can I prioritize incorporating a life that lights me up into the day-to-day? What does that look like? Because, leaving the circus is one thing, but it might take a few steps to be able to get there, and belief in yourself, friggin' getting over that imposter syndrome, all of the stuff. But how can we bring that sense of freedom, of usness into where we are right now?
Yeah.
I think you bring up such a good point with that the day-to-day can be a huge challenge for a lot of us.
It can be. And I think a lot of it can come down to rearranging how we're addressing our priorities. I always advocate not telling people don't spend time with your family and friends, that's not going to change. Or, you still have to go and do your job if you've got a job. If you stop showing up, they will fire you most likely.
Yeah.
Generally
almost
how that
guaranteed.
would go. Almost guaranteed. So you still have to address those things, but it might be that a change in your habits, a change in your approach, or even a change in your expectations can make all the difference.
Yeah.
So, I think it is possible for anyone to make space in their life for what their passions are. Um, but it can take a lot of self-work, a lot of
Yeah.
diving deep
Mm.
and kind of addressing what's important.
So what are some things that you've personally done that you feel have worked for you in overcoming those challenges?
Yeah. So one thing was for for me to feel like I have the time and space to do what I need to do creatively. I like to have a remote, flexible job. So
Mm.
finding that, you know, has given me, I've got a lot of Capricorn energy. I like the financial security of having a regular paycheck. That's nice. Um, but having it be flexible, if there's some days I'll wake up and I'll wake up early, like 5 a.m., and I'll get all my work done, and then I have the rest of the day to be creative. Other days I'll wake up and I'll be like, I need to work on the story first thing, and I'll do that, and then I'll do my work. Obviously, meetings and stuff can sometimes require some adjusting of my own priorities from day to day, but for the most part, that was a huge part of it. Another big part was thinking of my creativity not so much as a job, because that can take some of the joie de vivre out of it, but as something that I am eager to
Mm.
participate in every day. And I think like any lifelong choice we make, whether people are considering marriage or service in some capacity, or spending time being creative, it's a choice it may seem to the outside world like we're making it once, but we're making it every single day.
Mm.
So like if I'm waking up, would it be easier to just sit and watch Netflix all day? Probably. I would still
Yeah.
get that injection of story that I like, but I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be creating it myself.
Mm.
So, making the choice to work in that capacity, it is a daily recommitment to the self,
Mm.
knowing that I'm going to get that feeling of coming up for air.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way that you
Yeah.
put that, the daily recommitment. Because,
Mhm.
yeah, I think sometimes we can just kind of get like so not like lost, but like almost sidetracked, like this
Yeah,
is the way that life is. And, it's been like this for 20 years. So might as well just keep going.
Mhm.
But no, we get to make that choice every day. Something that
we do.
I put into practice, just like within the last few years, was on my daily to-do list. I make sure to add in or make sure to prioritize really like self-care things, and also right now creative release. Like it
I love that.
has to be done along with my work and whatever else like I need to do, says society like this. But what I need to do, what Michaela really needs to do, is this as well. Like I need to be outside in nature every single day, and if I don't, it's not a pretty sight.
Right.
But
That's
adding that
great.
in, yeah, it's been a helpful game-changing practice for me. But it's a little thing, right, that makes a huge difference of like what would happen if we put that one thing that really truly lights us up on our daily to-do list.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a to-do list kind of person, not everybody is, but for me that worked.
I like, Michaela, that you mentioned daily to-do list, because I think sometimes we can become overwhelmed when we're making new goals and think like, okay, I'm going to start working out more, and that's going to make me feel better, and I'm going to do it every day, and I'm going to do it for, several months, because beach body's coming, or but everybody is a beach body. Go put on a bathing suit, get to the beach.
Yes.
But
Yes.
just as an example, it's like, okay, like I'm making these new goals to do art, and I desire to have more of that in my life. Like, take it day by day, take a
Mhm.
look at it. It's like, what thing can I do today that makes me come alive? Like, write out a list of some of those things that make you come alive. If it's storytelling, if it's writing, if it's, getting out with the dogs to the park, like, just do it for today, and tomorrow can worry about itself. And the
Mm-hmm.
more you
Yeah.
do that, the more you do that, the more consistent you'll be. And I'm sure the more fully alive you will feel.
Yeah. 100%. Because then you're also living in the present. I mean, not to be grim, none of us know how long we have in this life, right?
Memento mori.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. This day could technically be the last one. So like,
Mhm.
why put off lighting
Yeah.
yourself up? Why put off really living when you
Yes.
have the option to do it today? You can't change what you did yesterday. And who knows? I mean, hopefully we'll all be here for a while longer, but one
Yeah.
doesn't know. Um, so I think, taking it day by day is really important, and choosing every day that you wake up, okay, I'm committing to myself in this way, or I'm committing to living in this way is really crucial.
Mhm.
So good.
Totally. So good. Like so many good nuggets here. I'm like, if I were not holding on to my microphone actively at this moment, I would be taking all the notes, but I will take all the notes when I listen to this episode again. So good.
Love that.
Thank you.
So, for our final question with you, Margaret, as we get to wrapping up our time with you, what is some encouragement or some wisdom? Not that you haven't shared much wisdom with us
Right.
already, but we're going to ask you for just a little more, if you would. Indulge us with some encouragement or wisdom nuggets that you would give to anybody who dies. Wow. Can we back up? And I'm going to say that one more time. What encouragement or wisdom nuggets can you give to anybody who desires to live a life fully lit up?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so the first one would be to choose a thing that lights you up uniquely. We're all unique beings, and we all, like, trying to light yourself up in a way that lights someone else up is inauthentic, and it's not going to have the desired effect. It might feel like a good band-aid for a little while, but it's, after a certain amount of time, you're going to feel like you're trying to live someone else's life, and you're just going to be frustrated.
Oof.
So that would be the first one. The second one would be that as a human, you have this right to do this. Like, you don't need anyone's permission. There's no one coming to tell you that you can't do this. It can feel so much in our world like we need the permission of others to do what feels right. And as long as you're not hurting somebody, like, you have permission. As long as what lights you up is not like, causing harm to somebody else.
Serial killers.
If that's you, please go get some attention
Therapy?
from a from a mental health specialist,
Please
or
talk to somebody.
Yes.
Yeah. This advice probably won't be for you, but if that's not you, this is the case with most people who probably listen to your podcast. You have the right simply by virtue of being human. You don't need anything else. You've got it all inside you already. Those would be my two nuggets.
So good.
Yeah, those are so good. These are things that, like, I mean, I feel like this whole conversation is like, my gosh, if like 18-year-old me had heard this stuff, I would have felt, like a little bit more permission to actually not feel like I have to justify what I'm doing, or not feel like I have to do something because this is the expectation that's out there. But it is so important for every single person to be living into their thing that lights them up. Like, actually, the world really truly needs that. And giving,
it's one of the things. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go for it. So many more nuggets of wisdom.
One of the things I love about your podcast is that it's if everybody had the same thing that lit them up, you'd have one episode and it would be done.
That's true. Yes. Oh, yes. I will say I have totally noticed a theme that most people do understand that life is precious. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. And I think that is a huge motivator for living a life that lights us up, is having that realization of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing if I'm not really living? And if that doesn't scare you into living a life that lights you up, then listen to some of the other gold nuggets of wisdom and everything. Like this conversation absolutely lit me up today. I feel so reinvigorated to go find some new creative ways, or to be able to perceive things that I love to do as my creative passions, as my gift to the world, by leaning into them. Thank you, Margaret, for being here, for being part of this conversation, for sharing your story and your passions and these, I mean, I keep saying nuggets of wisdom, but like, it's really true. I just feel like there's been so much gold in this episode. And I certainly hope, I know that everyone who's listening to this is going to be encouraged and inspired to go out and
I'm glad.
recommit daily to a life that really does light them up. It's a beautiful thing.
Come on. Thank you,
Yeah.
Margaret.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
It's such
This
a
has
joy
been
to
so
get to
much
meet
fun.
you.
Same to
Mhm.
you, Gabe. And always a joy to see Michaela again.
Mhm. Yes, this is so much fun. I mean, this is maybe one of the most fun pieces of the podcast is like just getting to have conversations with people who we know and love, but like we've never really talked about this stuff. So it's so much fun. Thank you for taking the time to share who you are and what lights you up in this space. We're so grateful to have had you here today. And to anyone listening, if you feel inspired to come on and share your story, there's no prerequisites required. Just be yourself and share who you are. It gets to be done completely authentically. All that we ask is that you reach out to us and let us know that you would like to be on the podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Thrive Fully Alive. You can email us at thrivefullyalive@gmail.com. And in our Instagram, there is a link in our bio to fill out the form to actually be on our podcast with us. We would love to have you, and we look forward to being back in a couple of weeks. See you guys then.
See you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to So What Makes You Come Alive. We're so inspired by the conversations we get to have with everyday humans about what lights them up and how to love the story they're living. We hope that you feel just as inspired too.
Interested in getting in on the inspiration? Click the link in our Instagram bio at Thrive Fully Alive and select the option for The One About You, Be Our Guest. Remember to tune in each week for a new episode where we explore what it looks like to get back to living our best story, where we hope that your favorite story becomes your own.